What is up, people of YouTube? I'm your host Vernon. This is Hemenway Harbor. Let's fish that. Alright, ladies and gents, about 2 weeks ago I went carp fishing at Floydland Park and a big fish grabbed one of my rods and actually pulled it into the water. It took me 2.5 hours of constantly casting to retrieve my rod eventually, but luckily I did retrieve my rod, and ever since that day I've been yearning to get back at some carp. Now, summertime is a good time to find carp. They're actively feeding after they spawn, as well as with some higher water temperatures they need to constantly be feeding. So that's going to be the plan for today, to get some rods out there and try and find some carp. Alright, ladies and gents, it's 9 o'clock in the morning and already 1,000,000 degrees, so we're going to be soaking out some baits out there today, spending a lot of time in the water. We are 2 licensed anglers, so we're allowed 4 rods between the 2 of us. Got one out there that's baited with some anchovies, hoping for some stripers or catfish. But the main focus for today is going to be the 2 carp rods. Now, on here we have simple pack bait. That's 3 cups of oats, 1 tin of corn, and 1 packet of jello. That's what we're using for the pack baits. And then we have some corn and some floaties or oozers. That's just a little marshmallow type float, just to lift your baits a bit out of the mud. But to return to my South African roots as well, we're going to be using some supercast almond ball dip. All this is a syrupy type thing with some flavorants. That's something we're going to put on there just to attract fish to our baits. Now, the reason why we're using this, if everyone's throwing some corn out there, you need to get your corn to stand out a bit. And that's why I'm using some of this dip, just to enhance the flavor. Alright guys, and this is my normal carp setup. The little reel there has a bait runner, something that lets line out. This is the rod that was ripped into the water. That's the one I recovered. Testing it out there today to see whether it still works, whether the 2 hours in the water did any damage to it. But after that, I decided it's maybe a good idea to get another rod for carp fishing. So I got a cheap little Ozark Trail grit stick from Walmart. This is a combo deal where you get a rod and a little reel. A bit shorter than the other one, but this is a medium heavy rod. It's a bit stiffer, so I'm going to try that out there as well. Let's see if we get any carp on this new rod to see whether that works. Alright, so this one, because it's a spinning rod, I have to loosen the drag. The line needs to be able to pull out, and when setting the hook you just grab it so that you don't let line out just to set the hook, and then you have to tighten the drag when reeling in. Alright guys, it's a pretty busy Saturday today. Lots of boats going into the water, so we are fishing in this little cove for now, trying to find some carp up shallow. As the day progresses, we will move and try and get a bit deeper, closer to the tires, depending on how much traffic is in the area. We already had something steal our anchovies, had some movement on one of the carp rods. We'll wait for some fish, but while we're spending time in the water, going to use 4th little rod, and on this one we're going to put some lures, see if there's any bass. Might walk out on this shelf, try and get a bit deeper, see if there's any bass in the area. We just had our rod setter go off and we have a fish on there. This is on the little anchovies, so it might be a small striper or maybe small catfish. We'll bring it in and see. And he just came off. Thinking we're using quite a big hook on here. Gonna go for a smaller hook, rebait, try again. Got a lot of traffic today on the water, but that's expected when fishing near the marina, especially over weekends. Still seeing a lot of fish jumping around. It's just trying to get on the fish, that's the problem. Alright guys, throwing around some lures, and we got a little bass. Nice largemouth bass, and a little spinner. Alright, so let's see if we can grab this fish. There we go. Decent largemouth landed. Our little lure almost went through his entire lip, so almost lost this little fish. But not the biggest of largemouth, but happy to get something at least. Let's just give this fish some oxygen. One last good look at our little largemouth bass. Nice big mouth on him. Let's get him back to the water. Just gonna quickly release him. And there he goes. Ever so gently. Not afraid of me. He's just swimming off. Got that little guy on a little spinner, but he completely bent my spinner. Alright guys, we've been seeing quite a lot of shad jumping in this area. So we have our little anchovies on this side now, hoping when some stripers come past they maybe go for the anchovies. Some of the catfish might go for that. And then the two carp rods, we got them closer to the wall or to that little buoy. The thing is, we've been seeing quite a lot of big carp jumping in that area, so got baits out that side. But sometimes it takes very long for the corn to be in the water before the fish show any interest, so we're going to leave them out there soaking. Alright guys, we have a screaming rod. And we have a fish on. Hopefully this is the carp that I want. Feels nice and decent. Swimming towards me. Just want to try and get it away from the other line. Fish has gone completely towards the other line. That's now the fish pulling on that line because it went underneath and over again, so we'll just bring in the fish. And there we go, wife got it in the net. Just want to get the other line out. Right, so this time around we brought out a little carp mat. We did wet it so we can quickly put the fish on that so that we don't have him on the ground or on the shells getting hurt or damaged. We're going to use our little mat. Right, so there we go. That's our little carp. Got the hooks out. Nice carp for today. Not the biggest one, but happy to get a carp at least. I'm not going to weigh this guy. He's about 30 centimeters, not that big. So let's get him back to the water. Alright, so getting him back to the water, and there he goes. Quite slimy, jumped out of my hands as soon as he saw the water, but we got him back safely. Alright guys, this rod just jumped up. Let's see whether the fish is still on there, whether the hook setting actually worked. Feels like it might be on there. Putting up a decent fight. Haven't seen the fish even yet. The fact that it's staying down is a bit strange. There we go, channel catfish. So it's staying down, it's going to the bottom. Decent golden one. Not going to try and boat flip him, quickly going to get the net. Oh, never mind, when I got the net, fish came off. So, sadly, not going to be able to land that little catfish, but he broke off the entire line. I'm using some lighter line on this setup. I think it's something like a 6-pound line in the front part. He broke that off. So, depending on how good that hook was actually set, that fish now has the little hook. But not bad. That's our third little species for today. Alright guys, I'm having a look at this piece of line, the thing we just had the little catfish on, and I think it's something like 2 to 3 feet worth of line that's terribly frayed and all scratched. So I'm thinking no matter what we did, that catfish was going to come off in any case. So best thing to do is cut off the frayed line, retie and get some more baits out there. Alright guys, and the wife is also on a little bass. Quickly want to get closer. Alright guys, we quickly have this fish in the net. We just want to correctly ID this fish, because I think this might actually be a smallmouth bass. You can see if I close the jaw line is not past the eye. This means this is indeed smallmouth, along with the little brown colorations. Just give him some oxygen. So that's now our fourth little species for today. Largemouth, smallmouth.
Might be my first smallmouth for the year.
First smallmouth for the wife for the year. Decent little guy. Let's get him back to the water. And there he goes. Straight between my legs. But good catch. Woo! We had a little alarm scream on this one, but the line went slack. Just gonna reel in. One of two options, either the fish just pulled it and dropped it, or maybe the fish swimming towards us, but seeing how is it staying at the same spot, not thinking the fish have our hooks, so we're just going to leave it out there for a while, see if maybe that fish comes back. Alright guys, so once again, alarm screamed. But this time we have a fish on. This is now on the new rod. Finally we get to see how it handles some big fish. Got some camo grips just to make fighting the fish a bit easier. And I think it just pulled. Yep, just pulled the hook out there. So lost that fish again. This is now the fourth fish in a row we've lost. This one, the hook probably teared out because the hooks are still on there. But let's rebait, try again. I think this might have been my mistake. Remember, with this type of reel, you have to tighten the drag when bringing in the fish. I think I tightened it too much. The fish needs to be able to take out line. Because this couldn't take out line, I think the hook popped. And there we go. Wife's on another fish. And it came off. What was it?
Smallmouth, like the patterning looked like another smallmouth. Probably the size.
A tad bit bigger smallmouth, but unfortunately the hook popped at the last moment. Maybe we should give a little camera to the wife for catching these fish. Alright ladies and gents, we have reached the part where dipping into the water every once in a while is no longer sufficient. You need to be sitting in the water when it's this hot. But alongside that, I want to point out that most of the fish we caught out there today has been during midday. A lot of the times you'll hear fishermen talk about early mornings and late afternoons, dusk and dawn. That's a great time to catch fish, but you can still catch fish anytime during the day. And especially in summer, you need to remember that most fish are cold-blooded. So if the water temperatures rises, so does their body temperatures, and they need to eat more. That's why they're feeding all the time. Now we've been pretty lucky today with catching 4 different species out there, but sadly we also lost more fish than we actually caught. But luckily the old carp setup still works pretty well. We caught that one fish on that. The new rod, however, we didn't land that fish, so even though I got to feel how the fish fights on this rod, we didn't catch anything. So that leaves me open for another video to try and catch something on that rod. But rather than melting all the camera equipment out there, I think we're going to call it for today. Please do give me a little thumbs up for all the fish we did manage to catch. If you're new to the channel, haven't done so already, consider hitting the subscribe button, joining my community. You can always ask any questions down below in the comments. I do try and answer all of you guys. Alright guys, but that's going to be it for this video. I want to thank you for following us out there. And like always, I'll see you next time. And there we go guys. Last rod, last try. Want to make sure the fish can take line if he needs to. Let's see if we can get him in. We want to try and keep the fish away from cover. We've lost a few now, but they go for cover. I think there's still a lot of things in the water where they can get stuck on. But it feels like a decent fish. This rod has a sturdy backbone. Nice to bring the fish in on this. Just had a little shad jump in the water there. So I thought we caught a little shad, but no. This one's still swimming sideways. We've not yet seen the fish.
Believe that the rod acted that way with the fish.
It's a decent carp. Still has some fight left in him. Big belly on this one. He's feeding well. We just want him to kind of give up on his little fight before we try and get him to the net, because I don't know if this one's going to fit in the net. It looks like he's been caught before, has a few marks on his cheeks. So we quickly kind of try and pick him up out of the water because the net is too small. I think with a belly like that, maybe we want to get a weight on this fish. It's not the biggest fish, but with a belly like that, he's going to have some weight to him. Alright, so that's 6.3 kilograms. That's 13.9 pounds. Has a big belly on him, but he's been through enough. We're going to get him back to the water. So again, not the biggest fish, but with that belly, feeding well, has some weight to him. Just want to make sure he's fine. And there he goes, back down, looking for some more food. And luckily, we get a last fish to end the video with.